Hello, welcome to Student Spotlight, where each month we'll be spotlighting a different graduate student from the English department at Oklahoma State. My name is Sean Kulikin, the English grad student coordinator, and I'll be your host. And today I'm very excited for our very first guest from the creative writing program, Mark DiFruscio. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Sean.
So Mark, the way this thing works is I ask you 5 questions and you give us 5 answers. Sound good?
Sounds good, yeah.
All right, cool. Let us begin. Question number 1. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're working on here at OSU?
Sure, I am a 6th year PhD student in English, focusing on creative writing. And I'm currently trying to finish my dissertation. The term we use is ABD, all but dissertation. So I finished all of my coursework and all of my exams. And now I just have one big project left that I'm trying to complete and then defend at the very end of my time here. And that's going to be a creative dissertation, which is a collection of short stories that are interconnected.
Sounds great. And how are they all connected, if I may ask?
Sure. So there's different ways with a short story cycle to connect them. Sometimes it can be characters, sometimes it can be theme or a setting. In this case, the sort of connective thread between them is that all of the characters have had some sort of experience with alien abductions or UFOs. And it's based on a lot of actual accounts of people who have had these sorts of experiences. And I just thought it was a really interesting mechanism to address how people make sense of their lives through storytelling. Because so often with people who have these experiences, they don't understand it. And the only way they can sort of process it is to tell people about their experience. And so I thought that was a great avenue to examine storytellers and storytelling and the function it plays in our lives.
Wow, that is so fascinating. I can't say I've come across too many people talking about or writing about alien encounters. How did you ever come up with a topic like that?
Yeah, it's funny. It started with a workshop that I was taking here with Professor Amy Parkinson, who is my advisor. And she usually has a theme for her workshops. And this particular semester, the theme was the short story cycle, which is to say short story collections that sort of interconnect to create an experience that's almost like a novel. And so we looked at books like Jennifer Egan's Visit from the Goon Squad. And we sort of were then challenged with trying to come up with our own version of that. Can we come up with an idea for a short story cycle and then write stories that would be in that collection? And so when I was sort of faced with that prompt for the course, I had to come up with an idea, right? And as we all do as writers. And so I came up with a couple of different ones. And the one that I sort of landed on that seemed to be the most interesting, that had the most potential, was this idea of different stories that could be in different forms, about different characters, different time periods. But the one sort of connective thread was all of these people had some kind of an encounter or encountered someone else who had an encounter. And so I thought that would give me a lot of leeway to tell different types of stories, but they all sort of connected thematically.
Wow, that sounds really great. Wow, really interesting. And I think that's really cool that you were able to, professors encourage you to keep writing about, that topic. That's really awesome. All right, thank you. That was a long question number 1, but I did kind of want to add a couple other questions to it. Question number 2. Why did you choose to come to Oklahoma State? Because you're from San Diego, correct?
Right. I was getting an MFA in creative writing at San Diego State University. And while I was there, I was working on a literary journal called Fiction International. Mm-hmm. And towards the end of my time there, and I had really gone back to school after about a 12-year period. I'd gotten my first MFA in 1999. So I'm a non-traditional student. I'm in my 40s. Right, which is a bit older than most of the other students in the grad program. And I had come back to college mostly to get teaching experience at San Diego State. And while I was there, I realized how much I enjoyed being in school, and I decided to get my PhD, and I started to look at programs. And coincidentally, while I was working at Fiction International, we published a story by Amy Parkinson. And when I was looking through different grad programs, for different PhD programs, I came across Oklahoma State University. And at the time, Amy Parkinson was the director of the creative writing program here. And it just seemed like this sort of strange moment of serendipity, where here I am looking for PhD programs, and I didn't really have any criteria in terms of where I wanted to go. I was just sort of looking, I was sort of browsing the different programs, and then I see the director of the creative writing program here is the same person who we just published in Fiction International, and I really liked her story a lot. And so I just sort of thought it was a kind of bit of serendipity I should pay attention to. And so I applied and I got in, and had never been to Oklahoma in my life, was not entirely sure whether I wanted to come here. And then when I came to visit, one of the grad students named Tomi showed me around for the day, and she suggested I go see a student reading at a bar here called Iron Monk. And there's an association called the Creative Writers Association, Creative Writing Association, that's a student-run organization. They do readings every month. And I went to the reading, didn't know anybody. I sort of stood in the back, just this complete stranger, and I watched a few of the people read. And I was just so impressed with the writers. I thought they were such great writers, and I just was so taken aback by how talented they were and how much I liked their work, that it was sort of that moment, like standing there in Iron Monk, listening to Claire and Clem and Keith and a few other people reading, that I thought, oh gosh, I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to come here.
Wow, what a great story. Yeah. I kind of had something similar to that when I first came, and I noticed like the community of writers that were here. Yeah.
It's one of the best parts of the program because, well, you can certainly point to the fact that Stillwater is a small town and it's out of the way. The fact that we are sort of, off the beaten track, it makes the community here a lot stronger because we really sort of tend to gravitate toward each other, both for, creatively, but also socializing and really as a family.
Yeah. Great answer. Thank you. Question number 3. I mean, this seems like a good way to seek into number 3. What are some of the best things about this program? I kind of feel like we're starting to talk about that anyway, but what are some of the best things about the Oklahoma State program that, that have happened to you that you'd like to share?
Oh, it's the relationships. I've spent time in grad school, obviously, in the past. I got my first MFA in 1999, as I said, and then I worked professionally for a while. And coming back to college, the thing that you just can't get anywhere else outside of the university is that sort of intellectual stimulation from your peers, from your friends who are studying a lot of the same things, have a lot of the same interests, are being challenged in a lot of the same ways. To have those conversations, and they don't always happen in classrooms. They happen in the office here. They happen at a bar sometime. They happen over dinner. They happen when you're just sort of hanging out between classes. They happen sometimes in the writing center where you're waiting for a student that you have to come tutor, right? You have these wonderful conversations, and from those conversations, they inspire you. They send you in different directions. They get you to read something you never would have read. They get you to think about things in a different way. And it's fun. It makes the process of writing and studying and really that sort of intellectual rigor that you have to practice in a grad program, they make it fun. It makes it fun. The relationships make it, really worth it in a way that if you were just, had your nose in a book all the time, would feel a little lifeless, So it's without question the people. And, of the people that I've gotten closest to, like my friend Raquel, who she was the other fiction PhD who started the same year as me. We've collaborated. She's translated my work into Italian, and I worked on a piece with her that a lot of the dialogue was in Italian, and we spent hours going over it line after line with her, sort of helping me translate it into Italian. And that piece actually just got nominated for a pushcart. And, I have to tell Raquel because she was my collaborator on that, and it's, like I said, it's the best part of the program, the people you become close to.
Congratulations. I did not know that.
Yeah.
This is new news.
Oh. Yeah, just the other day I got the email, so.
Wow. Congratulations. That's awesome. Let's see. Question number 4. do you have any advice for other students and maybe future students who could be watching this video and thinking about possibly coming to Oklahoma State?
Sure. I think the thing that I learned, and I think this is widely applicable, whatever program you're in, but, and I don't think it's necessarily unique to here, but it's what I learned here in this program was, I think when I first got here, coming from San Diego, which was quite a culture change, right? And coming from a program that was quite different, I felt a little resistance at first. You know, I wasn't entirely sure where it was coming from, but I just, at times I wasn't sure, right? It wasn't like I showed up and I said, oh, this is great. I love it. I'm going to be happy. There's struggles, there's adjustments you have to make. It takes a little time to settle in. And I think I didn't really settle in until I came to understand that the program and the place and all of my expectations weren't going to change to me. I had to change to them. And that I had to learn how to change. And I think ultimately, anything you do that's really worth it, that really challenges you, ultimately is going to change you in some profound ways sometimes. And you have to be willing to change. You have to be willing to let it change you. Because if not, you're going to spend a lot of time creating friction for yourself, you know, wanting things to be the way you want them, rather than realizing, no, it's actually a good exercise for you to have to learn how to adapt to the needs of the moment, to the needs of the place, right? And so that was the biggest lesson I learned. And I think, well, I don't think that's unique to here. For me, I learned that here in this particular program. And I think part of the nature of Stillwater, that it is such a small town, that it is such a tight community, that you can't just sort of, you know, go to a, you know, in San Diego, we can go to a different part of San Diego, you feel like you're in a different city. Here, when you're in Stillwater, you're in Stillwater, right? And so you have to learn how to adjust to that. And I think that process for me was really, really educational. And I think it made me a better person.
That's really great life advice.
Yeah. I mean, it's really not just
moving anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before I get to the last question, also, besides being in the PhD program too, you're an assistant director of the comp program, and you've been doing that for a couple years now. How's that been going for you? Like, I'm assuming you like it, and I'm wondering what that involves, and what are some of the great things about that position?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that's one of the ways to be more specific about how I had to learn how to change. I think I came here with the idea that I'm just going to write. I'm just going to focus on the creative writing side. I'm just going to work on my fiction, my novel, my short story collection, and really be sort of narrowly focused on that. And what I came to understand was that that actually wasn't helping me write. That sort of trying to focus so narrowly was actually making it harder for me to write. And that when I started to open myself up to other things, like I had actually, this is going to sound a little lacking in humility, but I had been approached about being a first-year composition assistant director pretty early on when I got here. I think partly because I was a little older and because I had some teaching experience. And I sort of turned it down because I thought, no, I'm just here to write. I'm just here to write. And once I finally did it, again, it opened me up in ways. Even though it was more work, it forced me to sort of diversify a little bit, to think about things differently. So to not just focus on my writing all the time. And ironically, the more I started to focus on those other things like mentoring other instructors or, you know, trying to help develop, you know, different workshops for the instructors, it actually sort of fed back into my writing because again, I had these relationships with the people I was mentoring. And we would talk about teaching and we would talk about, you know, the different aspects of the curriculum, but we'd also talk about writing just more broadly. And that fed back into it. Likewise, I started to take literature classes with people like Dr. Grubgeld and Dr. Hollemeyer and Dr. Murphy. And once I started to do that again, rather than seeming as though, oh gosh, I have to take this literature class, it's distracting me from my writing, it actually made my writing better. It actually made me a better student, it made me a better reader of fiction. And it really opened me up in ways that ultimately made me a better writer of fiction. And I think the idea that you have first-year composition and rhetoric over here, you have literature over here, you have fiction, poetry, creative nonfiction over here, and they're in these sort of discrete silos. Well, I understand the exigencies of that for a department and for a curriculum and things like that. Ultimately, to get the most out of the program, I think you have to move between all those different things because they all inform each other and they all make you, being a creative writer, I think makes you a better teacher. Being a better teacher makes you a better reader of literature, right? I think they all work together. And so when I started in first year composition, that was one of the things that really started to broaden my horizon, in terms of being able to realize that, okay, first year composition, rhetoric and writing studies is not my field. It's not something that I want to pursue in terms of my work as a writer, but being able to work within that field and work with other teachers is ultimately making me a better writer.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I wanted to find out a little more information about that. Yeah, thank you. Okay, final question number 5. This one's fun. Just what is one fun, unique hobby, interest, memory you'd like to share? This could be related to OSU and your aliens, or it's just completely random. What's something you'd like to share?
Probably the funnest memory I have, and this is probably going to seem a little boring to some people, is what I call Pizza Wednesday on Tuesdays. And basically, it's just a silly thing. You've been a part of it. I know a lot of people who have sort of come and gone, but a few friends and I, we started to have dinner, really kind of an early dinner, late lunch every Wednesday. And we would go to this pizza place, and it's not a pizza place that I particularly like, because if you want to know one thing about Stillwater, don't come here for great pizza. They don't have a lot of it. But the fun of it was that it's this place that, although I don't like the food very much, they kind of let you sit there for hours and they're refilling, they don't kick you out, and you can just hang out and talk. And so I started going there with a friend, my friend Natalie, who graduated, and then my friend Kayla, and then the 3 of us, and then you came a few times, and the lineup changes, but it's a sort of routine thing that it's a custom that we fell into. And mostly it's just an opportunity for friends to sit around and talk about what's going on in the program, what's going on with our writing, what's going on with our teaching, what's going on in our personal lives, sometimes to vent, sometimes to talk about serious things, sometimes to talk about our stories, where we'll pull up a story or an essay or a poem and just talk about it over dinner. But mostly it's a chance for us to just get together and laugh. And I would say probably it's the thing that I'm going to miss the most is just, again, those relationships. And they tend to be built over those like very sort of dull little dinners you have on a Wednesday or a Tuesday after you've been teaching or after you get out of class.
You heard it. Pizza Wednesdays. That's great. Mark, thank you so much. This was a great interview. Great first interview for Student Spotlight. I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking time out of your
for having me, Sean.
with me. Yeah. And thanks to our viewers for watching. And we'll see you next month for another episode of Student Spotlight. Take care. Goodbye.